Cables are being sabotaged. Who is behind it? Why has this spooked Brussels and NATO, who have now deployed military assets to protect the cables? In West Asia, more than 50 strikes since Israel and Hezbollah agreed to a ceasefire. At this rate, will the truce hold? In Syria, the rebels continue to advance as the fighting intensifies. What are President Assad's options? What is XRP? Why has it gained $100 billion in value since Donald Trump's win? Why are global pharma giants rushing to launch their weight loss drugs in India? Why a court in America has blocked Elon Musk's pay package not once but twice? How the Indian GDP numbers and the falling rupee could impact the RBI governor? Why the government in France could fall barely 3 months in charge? And what's with the great CEO exodus? A record number of CEOs have quit this year. We examine why. The headlines first. South Korea's President Yoon declares emergency martial law, accuses the opposition of anti-state activities. The surprise late-night move sends shockwaves across the country. It comes as Yoon's party and the opposition disagree over the budget bill. The opposition vows to block the president's declaration in parliament. The US and China battle for chip dominance. Beijing curbs exports of key chip-making components to the United States. It comes after Washington targets China's ability to make advanced chips. China had earlier tightened the exports of rare metals. The new curbs will now ban their export. US President-elect Donald Trump will be in Paris this weekend to attend the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral. This is his first foreign trip since winning the election. Trump will be joined by 50 other heads of state at the ceremony. Saudi Arabia executes more than 300 people in 2024, with one execution being recorded almost every day. Among them, more than 100 were foreign nationals. The numbers have gone up drastically since 2023, when Riyadh carried out 170 executions. And Italy clamps down on tourist self-check-ins. Airbnb owners will have to verify the identity of guests in person now. This move comes as tourism numbers soar in the country. Italy's fight against over-tourism also includes entry fees and ban on late-night pizza. When Sheikh Hasina was toppled, we called it a setback for India. It's been more than 4 months now, and I don't think setback covers it anymore. It's heading towards a breakdown. There's a war of words between Delhi and Dhaka. Diplomatic missions are being targeted, national flags are being insulted, and there is talk of trade disruptions and boycotts. Guess who's looking to capitalize on this? The Chinese. They're hosting Bangladesh's Islamist political parties. A 14-member delegation is touring Beijing. It is led by the Jamaat-e-Islami, a radical Islamist group in Bangladesh. They have a tainted history. In 1971, the Jamaat supported Pakistan's genocide in East Pakistan, that's present-day Bangladesh. Before the creation of a separate country, it was called East Pakistan. The Jamaat also opposed Dhaka's secular credentials. Over the years, they claim to have changed, at least in public. But looking at the situation in Bangladesh, they clearly haven't. Of course, none of this bothers China, neither the Jamaat's politics nor their past. All they care about is getting a foothold in Dhaka. Last month, Beijing also hosted the BNP, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, again an Islamist political party. When the BNP ruled Bangladesh, China benefited. They got military deals, they got investment opportunities, and most importantly, the BNP kept India at bay. Back then, the Jamaat used to be a BNP ally. But now equations are changing. You see, Sheikh Hasina's party, the Awami League, is out of the picture. So there are two big players left, the BNP and the Jamaat. And they're eyeing the same prize. They both want to capture power in Dhaka. And that is why China is reaching out to both. India too has reached out to the BNP, but the Jamaat could be a step too far. After all, we are talking about a radical anti-India organization. So India's options are limited and not very promising. And its relationship with Dhaka is going from bad to worse. On Monday, there was an attack in India's Tripura state. A mob attacked the Bangladeshi mission in Tripura. They stormed the complex, vandalized the premises, and removed Bangladesh's national flag. New Delhi has condemned this incident. It has also promised additional security for Bangladeshi missions in India. Local officials are also on the job. They have arrested 7 people who were part of the mob. Plus, 3 cops have been suspended. On a side note, I hope Canada is taking note. That's how you protect foreign missions. In fact, Dhaka should also take note. We've seen the Indian flag being insulted in Bangladesh. We've also seen attacks on Hindu minorities, but we haven't seen a similar response from Dhaka, or even a simple condemnation. Compared to that, India is cracking down. Yet, Mohammad Yunus is not satisfied. He summoned the Indian High Commissioner earlier today. The envoy had a meeting at the Foreign Ministry in Dhaka. He later spoke to the Bangladeshi media. He said Delhi and Dhaka have a multifaceted relationship. It cannot be reduced to one issue or one agenda.
Keep continuing talking about. We have such wide-ranging relationship, multifaceted relationship, and as I've said, you cannot reduce it to one issue or one agenda. We are working across so many issues, and we really want to build a positive, stable, constructive relationship.
Yunus clearly wants to escalate. Instead of admitting the problem, he is blaming Indian media. Again, apparently we are exaggerating things. In fact, a petition has been filed in Bangladesh's top court. It seeks to ban Indian news channels from their country. It says the coverage is provocative and disruptive. Well, fine, don't listen to us. Listen to your good friends in the West. The UK has just updated its travel advisory for Bangladesh. It has cautioned against non-essential visits. Do you know why? Because terror attacks are likely, according to London. We're waiting for Dhaka to say that London is also exaggerating. But for now, let's focus on India. New Delhi has displayed a lot of restraint until now. The question is, for how much longer? The public sentiment in India is changing too. In Assam, some trade bodies have decided to stop trade with Bangladesh. In Kolkata, some hospitals are turning away Bangladeshi patients. And in Tripura, hotels are denying them services, no rooms, no food. We're not saying this behavior is right. But it does reveal the challenge here. The Yunus regime has antagonized people in India. We saw another example of that over the weekend. Hundreds of Hindus marched to the border in Assam. They were shouting, Bangladesh Chalo, which means let's march to Bangladesh. Indian security forces repel these protesters, but how much longer can the sentiment be contained? Indications are New Delhi is also losing patience. You can sense that from the government's official statements. You can also see that in Sheikh Hasina's actions. Remember, she's still in India. Sheikh Hasina, she's in India. Until now, she had largely been silent, but now she's acting up. Last week, Sheikh Hasina released a statement through her party. This week, she virtually addressed an event in New York. And both times, she targeted Mohammad Yunus. She accused him of indulging in mass killings. Now, Hasina is a guest of the Indian government. So would she make such statements without consulting New Delhi, without their approval? It's unlikely, but it's only speculation at this point. What we do know is that China is enjoying all of this. They tried to sway Sheikh Hasina for many years, but she refused to abandon India. Now with Jamaat and the Islamists, Beijing senses a better opportunity, a chance to cultivate an anti-India regime in Dhaka. On the other side of the world, Europe is on the edge. NATO allies are on high alert. They've launched one of their biggest naval exercises. At least 30 NATO vessels are involved. 4,000 military personnel are participating. And what is their goal? To protect undersea cables. I'm talking about cables that run deep beneath the waters. They're increasingly coming under attack, so NATO is stepping up patrols to protect them and deploying more military assets. Remember, these undersea cables are extremely vital. The world economy runs on them. They power telecommunications. They also transport electricity and gas. Those same cables are now under attack. Last month, 2 undersea cables in the Baltic Sea were snapped. These were fiber optic cables. They enable cross-border internet connectivity. One cable that was attacked connects Finland to Germany, the other links Lithuania and Sweden. Thankfully, this did not lead to widespread disruption, but for some time, internet speeds across Europe dipped. Now, this incident has sparked concerns. Europe believes that this was a deliberate act of sabotage.
We are now also experiencing this in Germany, geographically at the heart of the European Union, so to speak, with cyber attacks, observation, and spying on critical infrastructure. Suddenly, parcels that are supposed to be transported in airplanes are exploding. And yesterday, as you mentioned, a data cable between Finland and Germany, and probably also affecting Sweden, broke down. None of this can just be a coincidence.
So who tried to cut Europe's internet? The Europeans suspect a Chinese hand. They investigated a ship, the Yipeng 3. That's the name of the ship. It's a commercial vessel. It left from Russian shores and traveled all the way to the Baltics. It was moving quite slowly, and this is what raised suspicions in Europe. Reports say that the ship was dragging its anchor on the seabed, and that's why it was moving slowly, and that's how the cables got damaged. The ship's anchor snapped them apart. There was high drama after that. For several days, the ship remained docked in the Baltics. It was surrounded by European and naval coast guards. At least 4 countries are investigating the sabotage: Denmark, Sweden, Finland, and Lithuania. And a few days ago, Sweden sent this message to Beijing.
Sweden has also sent a formal request to China to cooperate with Swedish authorities in order to create clarity on what has happened. That formal request was sent to China earlier today. And we will, of course, return to the matter as soon as we have anything new to report.
They expect China to cooperate. And what does Beijing have to say? Well, it hasn't challenged Europe's claims. It says it is working with its European partners.
As we have said before, the communication channels between China and Sweden and other relevant parties are unobstructed.
Europe has made similar accusations against Russia. Last year, a major story broke. It involved 4 key European nations: Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and Finland. They accused Russia of sabotage operations. Once again, the target was the Baltic Sea. They said Russia was sending spy ships for sabotage missions. So this blame game has been playing out for a while. Clearly, Europe feels threatened because undersea warfare could have a devastating impact. It could cut Europe off from the world, and in today's world, everything runs on the internet. So the sabotage of undersea cables could bring entire economies to a grinding halt. And this has become a growing concern. Cables are being damaged quite frequently. Around 150 cables are damaged every year now. Not all of these are acts of sabotage. Also, it's often hard to tell because compromising such cables is quite simple. All it takes is a ship dragging its anchor over the cables. This is what hybrid warfare looks like. And Europe, by the way, is not the only target. Similar complaints have come in Asia too. In recent years, countries like Japan and the Philippines have complained about similar disruptions. And it's not surprising, these cables crisscross the entire planet. There are more than 500 such cables across the world. They span over 1 million kilometers. They carry 99% of the world's communications. Virtually everything depends on them, from your emails to your WhatsApp calls to your instant messages, the infrastructure for global connectivity, basically. Cutting them off could plunge the world into darkness. Now let's turn to West Asia. The ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah is not even 1 week old, but it's looking increasingly fragile. Yesterday was the deadliest day for Lebanon since the ceasefire took effect. 12 Lebanese people were killed in Israeli strikes. In fact, let me show you the map. Lebanese people were killed in these 4 locations. They were among the dozen or so locations that Israel hit yesterday. Israel says it was targeting Hezbollah infrastructure, but the Lebanese government called the attacks ceasefire violations. Lebanon's parliament speaker says Israel has violated the ceasefire 54 times in about a week. But Israel does not see it that way.
We hear claims that Israel is violating the ceasefire understandings in Lebanon. On the contrary, Israel is enforcing them in response to Hezbollah's violations, which demand immediate action.
That was Israel's foreign minister. He says they're not violating the ceasefire by striking Lebanon. They are, in fact, enforcing it. These are the words he used, not violating but enforcing. Israel says that yesterday's strikes were a response to Hezbollah. Hezbollah fired rockets at disputed territory. The group fired at Sheba Farms. It is Lebanese territory occupied by Israel. Israel calls it Mount Dov. Hezbollah said the rockets were a defensive warning strike, whatever that means.
Yesterday was the first test shooting at Mount Dov as if it was outside the normal debate or subject to interpretation. For us, it is not subject to any interpretation, and we reacted strongly, and that's exactly what we will do.
Israel has also issued an ultimatum to the Lebanese government, asking them to start dismantling Hezbollah's infrastructure and start driving the group to the north of the Litani River. This river forms a buffer zone. Hezbollah is not allowed to cross it. That is part of the ceasefire agreement. Israel says it will keep hitting Hezbollah targets to the south of the river. It's part of their enforcement strategy. But that doesn't mean that other areas are safe. One of the places Israel struck yesterday was Nabatea. It is a city to the north of the Litani River, north of the buffer zone that is part of the ceasefire agreement. One person was killed in the strike there. He was a member of Lebanon's state security agency. The Lebanese government called it, and I'm quoting, blatant violation of the ceasefire and a serious escalation. And things may get worse from here, especially if Lebanon does not hurry to disarm Hezbollah.
If we return to war, we will act strongly. We will go deeper. And the most important thing they need to know is that there will no longer be an exemption for the state of Lebanon. If we separated the state of Lebanon from Hezbollah and between the rule of Beirut and the Dahiya, which received very severe blows, this will be no more.
Israel says if the ceasefire ends, it will stop differentiating between Lebanon and Hezbollah. Israel claims that it has not attacked Lebanon on purpose. Any Lebanese government casualties were always called accidents. But now Israel says it will drag all of Lebanon into the war if the ceasefire falls apart. Lebanon is panicking. The government spoke to the US and France yesterday. They also met with the US ceasefire monitoring committee. Beirut wants Washington and Paris to put pressure on Israel and get it to stop attacking Lebanon. Reports say the French foreign minister called his Israeli counterpart. He said both sides should adhere to the ceasefire, but the Americans seem to view things differently.
What we have seen since the ceasefire went into effect is it being successful. Broadly speaking, it has been successful in stopping the fighting and getting us on a path where we are not seeing the just daily loss of life that we had seen for 2 months prior.
Despite all the violations and saber-rattling, the US says that the ceasefire is a success. They say that some violations are to be expected, but these will be investigated. Meanwhile, the Americans are pushing for a similar ceasefire in Gaza. They're talking to all major regional players to seal the deal. And they may have received some help from a very unlikely source, the next president, Donald Trump. Trump put out this post yesterday. He said if Hamas does not release the Israeli hostages before he takes office on January 20th, there will be, and I'm quoting, all hell to pay. This is a direct threat in typical Trump fashion. And it puts Hamas on the clock, because if they don't sue for peace now, Trump may unleash his wrath on all of Gaza in January. The rebel offensive continues in Syria. It caught President Bashar al-Assad by surprise, but he's trying to fight back. We look at the battleground updates first, and then we'll see what Assad is up to and what his options are. The rebels are advancing towards the city of Hama. They're fighting Syrian soldiers on the way. Now, Hama is located in central Syria. It used to be a rebel bastion in the early days of the civil war. Later on, Assad took the city back. Now, if you see the map, you know why it's important. Hama lies between Damascus and Aleppo. Damascus is the Syrian capital, Aleppo is the second largest city, and Hama links these two important places, which is why the rebels want it. They took control of Aleppo over the weekend. Videos showed rebel fighters in key locations, including the airport and even inside Assad's palace. Take a look at this.
هاي من داخل قصر الرئيس. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. نوم الكلب. نوم الخنزير. وهي الجاكوزي تبعه.
Assad's army is fighting on the ground, but in the skies it's all Russia. Moscow is allied to the current Syrian regime. They have launched a number of airstrikes on rebel targets. This weekend, buildings in Aleppo were hit. And on Monday, Idlib was targeted. Now, Idlib is a city in northwest Syria. It is home base for the country's rebel groups. On Monday, it was a Russian target. Take a look.
شباب المشفى يا شباب شلون وضعكم؟ 2/12/2024 استهداف مشفى الجامعي في مدينة إدلب. شباب
The fighting has started to displace people. The United Nations says 50,000 have already fled, and in Idlib, around 18 people were killed. Reports say Russia struck 5 health centers in the city. We cannot confirm this report yet, but it wouldn't be surprising. Both sides have targeted civilians in this civil war. Russia has been accused of carpet bombing rebel cities, something they haven't done even in Ukraine. I guess tactics change with region, or maybe with skin color. Either way, the regime is fighting back. President Putin had a phone call with Iran's president. Both of them decided to coordinate their plans. Pro-Iranian fighters from Iraq are also heading to Syria. They will soon bolster Assad's forces. But the Hezbollah is staying out. They are focused on Israel and the ceasefire. But here's the problem. Assad is not just fighting on one front. This morning, Kurdish groups opened a second front. Most of them are based in Syria's northeast. They're backed by the United States. Washington has around 900 soldiers in the same region. Some airstrikes have been reported in these parts. Local sources are blaming the US-led coalition. Again, we cannot confirm this report, but the US coalition has attacked Iranian groups in the past. That's the second front. The third front is Damascus itself. Today, Israel launched an airstrike at the Syrian capital, Damascus. We don't know what the target was, but an explosion was reported near the airport. So to recap, President Bashar al-Assad of Syria is facing pressure from 3 sides: the Turkey-based rebels, the US-backed Kurds, and the Israelis. So what options does he have? Every side has different advice for him. Erdogan says pursue talks. The West says de-escalate. And Russia and Iran are keen to fight on.
Our greatest wish is for Syria's territorial integrity and national unity to be protected, and for the 13-year instability to end with a consensus in line with the legitimate demands of the Syrian people.
But in all of our conversations with countries in the region, we continue to urge every country to use any influence it has to press for de-escalation. We don't want to see any country try and take advantage of the situation in Syria, to try to take advantage of the instability in Syria.
We will do whatever is within our power, offering any assistance necessary to establish security and peace and to combat terrorism.
So which way will Assad go? His first instinct will be to fight on, to crush the rebels with brute force. But that depends on 3 variables. Number 1, Russia. How much can Putin realistically spare amid the war in Ukraine? How much firepower and air power? Number 2 is Iran. How many pro-Iran fighters will join Assad? And assuming they do, will Israel target them? And finally, variable number 3, how prepared are the rebel forces? Will they get reinforcements from their foreign backers? We'll have answers in the coming weeks. If Assad can reverse these rebel gains quickly, he can prevail. And if he doesn't, well, then he may have to explore other options. The United Nations already has a political plan for Syria. It was passed by the Security Council in 2015. The plan involves a complete ceasefire followed by elections. Assad will try to avoid that at all costs. But if the rebels gain momentum, who knows? This is clearly shaping up to be a consequential period for Syria. We'll be tracking the updates closely. Our next story is about cryptocurrencies. They're seeing an incredible bull run. Since Donald Trump's election victory, the crypto market has gained over $1 trillion. Bitcoin remains the market leader. It came close to $100,000 last month, $1 lakh for one Bitcoin. And now another cryptocurrency is rallying. It's called XRP. Since the US election, XRP has gained $100 billion in value. It is now the world's third largest cryptocurrency. So what is driving this rally? Is it only Donald Trump and his promise to make America the world's crypto capital? Or is there more at play? Our next report explores.
This is the chart for XRP, the cryptocurrency. It had a volatile day of trade. But if you take a step back and zoom out the graph, you'll see the big picture emerge. Over the past month, XRP has soared. Its value has jumped by a whopping 400%. XRP today is the world's third largest cryptocurrency. So what is XRP? Launched in 2012 by Ripple Labs, XRP was designed for a specific purpose. Its creators positioned it as a tool for fast and low-cost international payments. That's what drew users towards XRP. But its current rally has nothing to do with these features. There are no fundamental factors driving this rally. XRP owes its gains to President-elect Donald Trump. During campaigning, Trump positioned himself as a crypto-friendly candidate.
If crypto is going to define the future, I want to be mined, minted, and made in the USA.
That's a big shift for Trump. During his first term, Trump called crypto assets like Bitcoin a scam. But he's changed his position dramatically. Not only has Trump endorsed cryptocurrencies, but as a candidate, he also accepted donations in crypto. Trump has made some bold promises to crypto lovers. He has pledged to make the United States the global capital of cryptocurrencies. He even wants to create a crypto reserve. Crypto adopters are optimistic that Trump will deliver on these pledges. And their confidence grew after Trump announced his initial cabinet picks. Like Howard Lutnick. He's a Wall Street investor and Trump's choice for Commerce Secretary. Lutnick is bullish on crypto and has even invested in Tether, a crypto firm. Then there's Elon Musk, the mercurial entrepreneur. Musk placed a big bet on Trump.
Hi, everyone. As you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm dark MAGA.
He contributed over $100 million to Trump's campaign. That gave Elon Musk an outsized influence on the president-elect. He's already reaping the rewards. He isn't joining Trump's team as a secretary, but Musk has secured a role in DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. The name itself seems to be inspired by a cryptocurrency of the same name. All these factors are driving the bull run in cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin, the most popular crypto asset, is edging closer to the $100,000 mark. But how long can this rally last? Experts are urging caution.
As a small investor in particular, you have to bear in mind that the prices of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies have already risen very strongly. This means that price gains have already been very strong. And in this respect, you have to ask yourself whether now is still a good time to enter the market at these high prices. As we have seen in the past, that setbacks can also occur very frequently after large price jumps. So caution is advised here.
The crypto market has added around $1.2 trillion since Trump's victory. But in such a volatile space, these gains could vanish just as quickly.
We're in the last month of 2024. A lot of things have defined this year: elections, wars, artificial intelligence. One such phenomenon is weight loss drugs, especially the likes of Ozempic. The world got a peek of them in 2022. They triggered a storm in 2023, and this year they became the new normal. Not in India though, but that could change very soon. Reports suggest that Novo Nordisk is pushing for an early launch in India. Some background here. Novo Nordisk is a Danish drug maker. It makes two obesity drugs, Ozempic and Wegovy. They're a rage across the globe, and that's propelled the rise of Novo Nordisk. The demand was so high that they struggled with the supply. Right now, it's Europe's most valuable company. However, both these drugs, Ozempic and Wegovy, are not available in India. The plan was to release them in 2026. But now Novo Nordisk wants to do it earlier, sometime next year. Else, they're worried that they will lose India as a market. And that's because of another company, Eli Lilly. It's an American pharmaceutical giant. Eli Lilly also has two weight loss drugs, Mounjaro and Zepbound. In July this year, they got a green light from India's drug regulator. The approval was for type 2 diabetes. For these drugs to be used for type 2 diabetes, not weight loss, but weight loss is also under review. And Eli Lilly is said to be pushing for it. The approval could come in early 2025, so in the next few months. And this has left Novo Nordisk spooked. They fear that they could lose India to Eli Lilly, hence the rush to launch. A new report suggests that Novo Nordisk even has regulatory approvals. They apparently got them from India in 2022, although there's no official confirmation on this. But for a moment, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Why are these companies battling over India? because of the numbers, the size of the market. In India, 80 million people are obese, 80 million people are obese. Another 225 million people are overweight. When it comes to global obesity rankings, India stands third, right behind the US and China. By 2034, 11% of our population will be obese, and that makes India a major market for weight loss drugs going forward, and the demand is already soaring. In 2022, India's weight management market was worth around $180 million. By 2028, it is projected to be worth $336 million. Weight loss drugs are not legally available here yet, but thousands of people are already buying and using them. They either smuggle them from abroad or buy counterfeit versions online or import them from Europe. So these Indians are basically paying extra for cold storage, plus shipping, plus customs and tax, just to get their hands on weight loss drugs, which are already quite expensive to start with. Ozempic, for instance, will cost you around $1,000 a month. That's more than 80,000 Indian rupees every month. Wegovy costs around $1,300 per month. That's over 1 lakh rupees. At that price point, it's unaffordable for most people in India. So what's the solution? Well, there are two ways around it. First, Indian pharma giants entering the market, which is already happening. The likes of Sun Pharma and Cipla, they're working on new drugs. The tests have been positive. They're expected to be released soon. The second way around this is patent expiry. You see, Novo Nordisk's drugs contain an active ingredient called semaglutide. Semaglutide is what causes the weight loss. The company has a patent for semaglutide, which means that no one else can make a similar drug legally. But that patent expires in India in 2026. So after that, after 2026, Indian pharma companies can make generic versions of this drug. And that could drive down the price. Going forward, expect all of this to happen. The entry of foreign players, the launch of local brands, and the creation of generic versions. And it is quite interesting that all of this is playing out here in India, because this is a unique case. Yes, India is high up on the obesity scale, but it also has a significant malnutrition problem. More than 800 million people in India depend on food subsidies. An even bigger number gets insufficient nutrition. So while one part of the population struggles with excess, another struggles with access. It's a reminder of the stark inequalities and of the gaps that need to be bridged, so that we head into a future where health is not a luxury but a universal right. It's been a great year for Elon Musk. Tesla is doing well, SpaceX launches have been successful, and the candidate he bet on won the US election. It's like nothing could go wrong. But there's a setback now. Musk won't get the salary he wanted. $56 billion. That's the pay package Elon Musk wants. His company approved it in 2018, but then a court blocked it in January this year. So the matter went to Tesla shareholders. They voted again and approved it again. But the court has blocked it again. On what grounds? Why is an American court blocking Elon Musk's payout, and why was he getting $56 billion in the first place? Our next report tells you.
The year was 2017. Elon Musk was leading Tesla, but there were murmurs about his future at the company, about whether he would head it in the years to come. So, Tesla made Musk a deal he could not refuse. They devised a payment package for him. It set conditions for 12 different tranches of stock options. Musk would get paid in stock each time the company achieved a certain goal. Tesla shareholders approved this package in 2018, almost by 73%. The goals too were lofty. Musk had to grow the company astronomically to unlock his massive pay. Some even called it laughable. But Elon Musk achieved all the targets laid out for him. In 2018, Tesla was worth $54 billion. Musk grew it out to $650 billion, the original goal set out in the deal. This meant an astronomical pay package was due. But in January, the deal was thrown out. Tesla is based in the state of Delaware, and a Delaware judge found a few problems with this payout. She said that Musk was too close to the board. Also, it did not protect shareholder interest. Some prominent shareholders even voted against it, like Norway's Sovereign Wealth Fund and the California State Teachers Retirement System. But the court ruling did not stop Tesla. In June this year, Tesla shareholders voted again. 75% voted in favor of paying the Tesla CEO. Musk hailed the awesome shareholder base. But his happiness did not last long. The new deal has been rejected again. The judge has upheld her previous decision, adding that board members were too heavily influenced by Musk. The court basically said Musk negotiated with himself and, shocker, gave himself a great deal. Musk's pay package was worth $56 billion. An average CEO earns $16.3 million, so it's 3,400 times the income of an average CEO in the United States. An average American household earns about $74,000. It would take them 750,000 years to earn this much money. And mind you, the pay package was worth $56 billion in 2018. Right now, it's worth $101 billion. This is considering the current value of Tesla stock. So, it's a massive payout. And Tesla believes that Musk deserves it. It says it is necessary to incentivize him to stay on in the company. After all, he has 6 companies, including SpaceX, X, Neuralink, and others. Also, he's set to play a big role in the upcoming Trump administration, leading the Department of Government Efficiency, so Musk's attention will be divided. Tesla says that the money would keep him focused on the company. Musk tweeted about it too. He said that shareholders should control company votes, not judges. But ruling in Musk's interest would go against Delaware's conflict of interest laws. These laws aim to protect all investors. However, Tesla isn't giving up. It's set to appeal against the ruling. It could also make up a similar pay package in Texas, where the company moved its legal base earlier this year. So, is Musk worth all this money? Some say yes, he's irreplaceable. Others say no, that wasn't a fair deal in the first place. Either way, all we know is this: Musk isn't just playing the game, he's rewriting the rules. As for the billion-dollar payout, that drama is far from over.
There's a buzz in India's financial streets, and it revolves around one man, the Governor of the Reserve Bank of India, Shaktikanta Das. His tenure as RBI chief ends next week, but the government has been silent about his future. Will they give him an extension, or will they replace him? And this buzz comes at a very important time. India's GDP numbers were published last week. They came as a massive disappointment. The RBI had predicted 7% growth. The actual number was 5.4%. Now, the wrong prediction is not the problem here. The problem is what happens next. Union ministers have been dropping hints for a while now. They want the RBI to cut interest rates. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal said so last month. Listen in.
I certainly believe they should cut interest rates. Growth needs a further impetus. We are the fastest growing economy in the world. We can do even better. And frankly, the largest component of inflation is food inflation.
And how would that help? Well, think of it as a chain reaction. Commercial banks get loans from the central bank. They get these loans at an interest. If that interest rate is cut, banks get cheaper loans. If banks get cheaper loans, they can transfer that benefit to us. Meaning, consumers will also get cheaper loans. And who doesn't like that? Your house loans, home loans could get cheaper, your car loans, maybe even your credit card spending. And this increased spending will boost India's economy. That's why ministers want a rate cut. But the RBI is not convinced yet. Why? Because of inflation. India's October inflation came in at 6.21%. That's a 14-month high. It's also way above the target of 4%. Which is why the RBI is wary. The central bank will be meeting from Wednesday to Friday. Most experts do not expect a rate cut. They say it's more likely by February 2025. So the pressure is certainly on Shaktikanta Das. Reports say he could still get an extension, but a few other candidates are also in the fray, like the chief economic advisor and the deputy governors of the RBI. If the extension does not come, it would raise questions because Das has had a long tenure, in fact, the longest in almost 7 decades. He was first appointed in 2018, he got a 3-year extension in 2021, and he was twice ranked the best central banker in the world by Global Finance magazine. He managed the inflation crisis well in the last few years, but food prices have been sticky. We've had extreme heat waves, unseasonal rains, flooding in different parts of India, and global supply chain disruptions. All of this has increased food prices in India. The RBI's job is to control that. But the government's job is to ensure growth. Sometimes these two goals can be contradictory, and that often leads to friction. Not just here in India. This is a tussle we see across the world. The difference is the context. Like I said, the GDP numbers have created a lot of buzz. Some analysts are revising their GDP predictions for India, plus Donald Trump is heading to the White House. His rhetoric is shaking up the economy. We told you about his comments on the US dollar. That has bolstered the American currency. At the same time, it has devastated the rupee. Earlier today, the Indian currency fell to an all-time low. $1 was trading at 84.76 rupees. It recovered later in the day, but challenging times lie ahead for the Indian economy. The RBI will have a role to play in that, whether it's defending the rupee's value, fighting inflation, or lowering the interest rates. Let's see if Shaktikanta Das will be around to navigate this tough period. Our next story is about France. The country is facing yet another crisis. Their government may fall tomorrow before it completes even 3 months in power. The Prime Minister, Michel Barnier, faces a no-confidence vote. It's a vote that he is likely to lose. So France could be without a proper head of government yet again. It's a political mess, courtesy President Emmanuel Macron. He called for snap elections in June, and since then there has been uncertainty. And this is not the only problem that he's grappling with. There are strikes and protests, a nationwide taxi strike, farmer protests, a government worker strike, maybe even an energy sector strike. It seems every part of the French society is protesting, and now the government is about to shut down as well, as Paris gears up to host world leaders for the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral. Here's a report.
A fire was lit in the streets of Paris today. Some wood was set ablaze, smoke bombs were set off, and about 500 people gathered around to voice their discontent. The protesters are taxi drivers. They are demonstrating all over France today. Some of them are driving slow on purpose. This has caused traffic jams all over the country. Together, the jams are about 500 kilometers long. The cab drivers are protesting against France's new budget for the year 2025. The budget will force people to take shared cabs to the hospital instead of taking an individual taxi during an emergency. It's a deeply unpopular move, and taxi drivers say they will lose money. That is why they are protesting, that is why they lit the fire, and that's why thousands of taxi drivers from all over France are making their way to that spot. You see, the fire is very close to France's Parliament building, where the Prime Minister, Michel Barnier, passed the budget yesterday. The cab drivers lit the fire outside, but Barnier lit a metaphorical flame inside, right under his seat. He passed the unpopular budget without going through Parliament. He rammed it through without a vote. Now, this is never a great idea, but it's especially risky when you don't even have a parliamentary majority. You see, Michel Barnier runs a minority government. His position depends on outside support from other parties, especially France's National Rally Party. The National Rally was against this budget. They told Barnier to change it, but he rammed it through instead. So the National Rally has decided to pull the plug on Barnier's government.
This means that, as I speak, a no-confidence motion will be tabled and we will vote to bring down the government.
It's a rare occasion. Both France's right and left are coming together to bring down Barnier's government.
Obviously, in the face of this umpteenth denial of democracy, we will vote no confidence in this government, and Michel Barnier will probably go down in history as the Prime Minister who had the shortest term of office as Prime Minister of the Fifth Republic. We will vote no confidence, and contrary to what the Prime Minister said just now, there will not be chaos once Mr. Barnier and his government have gone. We are now experiencing political chaos as a result of both Mr. Barnier's government and Emmanuel Macron's presidency.
Michel Barnier became Prime Minister on September 5th. He hasn't even completed 3 months in power, and he could be ousted tomorrow. This could spell trouble. It took about 2 months for French parties to agree on Barnier as Prime Minister. He was a compromise candidate after weeks of negotiations, and he probably won't even last 3 months. So what happens next? What happens if he gets ousted? Most likely, there will be more gridlock, much like the taxi jams taking place all over France, and things will get worse soon. The taxi driver protest is scheduled to go on till Thursday, and then 2 more protests may begin that same day. A government workers' strike and an energy sector strike. Both groups are demanding higher wages, so they have threatened to bring services to a halt. When you look at all these things together, it sounds like the perfect metaphor for
Cool.
Say what you want about Donald Trump, but you can't deny one thing. The man knows how to entertain, even when the setting is a serious discussion on tariffs. That's what happened at Mar-a-Lago. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau flew down to meet Donald Trump last month, and they had dinner together. Trudeau's main agenda was to discuss Trump's proposed tariffs, 25% on all Canadian imports. Trudeau told Trump it would kill Canada's economy, and you won't believe what Trump replied. He said, "Become the 51st state of America and you don't have to pay tariffs." And he did not stop there. Trump said the title of Prime Minister is much better, but Trudeau would still be governor. It's funny enough when you hear it. It's even funnier when you imagine Trump saying it in his typical style, and even more funny when it's in the middle of a serious discussion on tariffs. I bet Trudeau did not like the joke. Reports say he laughed nervously with his aides. But social media had very different emotions. Take a look at this.
The tariffs will kill Canada's economy.
Become the 51st U.S. state, then don't pay tariffs.
Angola's president helps Joe Biden climb the steps to the podium during the US president's 11th hour trip to Africa. Thousands of homes underwater as floods in Malaysia displaced more than 90,000 people, and the White House decks up for the festive season ahead. Finally, we are taking you back in history. On this day in 1984, toxic gas from Union Carbide's pesticide plant in Bhopal leaked into the atmosphere. It enveloped the Indian city in a deadly fog. Nearly 500,000 people were poisoned. More than 15,000 were killed. The Bhopal gas tragedy remains one of the world's worst industrial disasters. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Hello and welcome to CNN News 18 with me, Ayushman Singh Jamwal. This is the late night edition, ladies and gentlemen, and big breaking news coming in from South Korea with the South Korean president.